A little bit of boldness with a little bit of luck, with a little bit of strategy goes a long way.
I'm sure it's the same when you're having conversations about sales prices for sellers, right? They think their house is worth X, and in some markets you have to reduce that by a certain percentage.
This is the worst it's ever going to be for you. And it doesn't matter what the price point is. If you can afford it today, you're locking it in for the next 30 years.
Too bad I can't move my Georgia house up here. It'd probably be worth $500,000 or $600,000.
I really do think that in general, living from a place of gratitude for everything we have, even the lessons we get to learn from the hardships, it's where it's going to be at.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello, good to see you as always.
Good to see you as well. I missed you last week.
I know, you were gone for a long time.
I was gone for a long time. Our listeners and viewers didn't notice because we planned for y'all, and we made sure we were continuing to drop an episode. But yeah, we weren't together all last week. So.
No, well, welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Speaking of welcome back everybody to another episode of Living Richly with Curo. My name is Ann McCabe. I am the CEO and a partner here at Curo Private Wealth, and I'm joined as always by my lovely partner, Teresa.
Hello, I am Teresa Roberts, COO and partner here at Curo. Thanks for coming back.
Yes. Welcome if you are new to us. Welcome back if you are an OG. We appreciate the love, the support, the questions, all the things. So thank you so much. This is episode number 52, and we are super excited to have a guest, Tracy Barrett, with us today, who is a local real estate agent to the DMV. And if you're not from this area, DMV stands for District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. So like the DC metro area where our Curo offices are located. And in case you were not aware, there's kind of a lot going on in
just a little something.
Just a little something in the world, in the country, and certainly in our backyard here in the DC area. So we thought it would be awesome to have Tracy on to talk all things real estate market. What should you be aware of, what's going on, etc. So we will welcome her in here in a couple minutes to pepper her with questions. But before we do an A-team catch-up, I'm going to take care of some housekeeping from the beginning. Let's do it. So number one, send us your questions. Any questions that we answer on our podcast, we will send you an Amazon gift card as a thank you. And you can send those questions into podcast@curoprivatewealth.com. And just a reminder to give us the 5 stars, let us know what you are enjoying about the podcast, and subscribe so that you are alerted when we drop new episodes, which is every Friday, like clockwork for y'all.
Yes. And you don't want to miss it. Why would you want to miss it?
We're so much fun.
We're so much fun.
What else could you be doing with your time? Yes. All right. So time for a quick A-team catch up. You go first, Teresa. So what is...
It was like so set up for you to go first today. Okay.
But I can't like nominate myself to go first. It doesn't work that way.
Okay. That's fine. I'll do my little Peasley catch up this week. I'm teasing. But it's been a really good, I guess, start to spring. So I think I may have said it on the pod before, but this year I treated the spring equinox like my new year. Like I felt so tired and overwhelmed as of the actual turn of the calendar this year. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to target springtime as my new year. So I celebrated that by having some friends come over to my house. We had a brunch together. We made flower arrangements where we used the flowers to help us set goals that we added to our bouquets of abundance, is what my sister named them, for the next 12 months. So it just felt like a really good time to not only catch up with friends, but also to check in with the goals that I kind of penciled in at the start of the year, but the things that I really want to focus on for the rest of the year. So that's been really good. I also wrapped up my first round of golf lessons, which were fun. So now I'm ready to try it out on the course. So I'm going to play with my golf aunties in a couple weeks up in Howard County, which will be fun. But yeah, so that's all that's going on with me in the, world of Teresa.
Yeah. I love it. I love the flower arrangement idea. I wonder too if there is going to be any symbolism to like which of the flowers end up lasting longer
Yeah.
than the others
Ooh.
and what that means for that particular
Yeah. I'll keep you
goal.
posted.
Keep us posted.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I recorded everyone talking about their flowers and what they each represented so that
Oh,
we would have a record of what we said.
yeah. Accountability.
Yeah, so it'll be nice to go back and see which flowers actually survived the
Make
longest. I'm
it.
curious now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's
Yeah. All
amazing.
right.
Make
Well,
sure to
catch
clean
me up.
out, make sure to like change the water every
Yes.
day, give them good
Give them the
vibes.
best opportunity. Yeah, my sister was
Yeah.
like, take home a packet of plant food. So
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah.
we want to give them the best environment to thrive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right.
Very
Well,
cool.
tell me about your exciting life.
All right. Well, Wally and I just got back from a whirlwind Central California trip. It was super fun, really busy. So I did come back like a little tired. It was like a very active vacation. But it was because we wanted to see so many things. And so we ended up flying into San Francisco, heading up to Napa. And this was our first time together in Napa. My first time in Napa, I was pregnant with my now 13-year-old. Don't recommend that. Like, unless you
Yeah.
love sparkling grape juice. I had enough of that after like a day. But so yeah, so Napa this time around with Wally was lovely. And then we drove to Monterey, saw Big Sur, which has been on my bucket list forever, and just like stunning. I mean, the pictures are beautiful, but in real life, just stunning. Went to Carmel by the Sea, which is an adorable, little town there near Monterey. And then we went to Yosemite, which was again incredibly beautiful. Still some snow on the mountains, which
Wow.
was
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, so it was very chilly in the morning. Record number of steps for the day. I got over 32,000
That
steps.
is wild.
I know, I didn't even think that was possible, but we were walking pretty much all day. Like, we got to the park at 6:30, I want to say, because we wanted to watch the sunrise there. And we were there, I don't know, until 5 or something like that. So it was just gorgeous, amazing hiking, very challenging hiking. Wally tried to convince me to do Half Dome, which is deadly. Can be deadly, especially because they don't have the ropes up, so you have to like
Right.
hook in with your own gear, which I don't have.
Right.
So we
Oh, you
didn't
didn't
do
have
that.
walking poles?
No. Oh, no. We were like the only ones who didn't have walking poles, by the way. Everybody else got the memo that you need walking poles in Yosemite, but we had a great time. And
Good.
yeah, it was just really beautiful and nice, good quality time. So
Yeah, I'm so glad you got to get away. And I know how much we love the kiddos, but I'm also glad that you got a trip to just be an
yeah,
adult.
yeah, exactly. This is what we call our adult spring break because
Right.
every other year our kids go with their other set of parents for spring break. So this is our adult spring break, and we hadn't had one in 2 years. So it was
Yeah.
nice to get away together.
Yeah, I'm happy
Highly
for you.
recommend.
Happy for you. No
Thank
hockey
you.
games, no amusement parks.
Nope. None of that. No Disney this spring break. Very different than last year.
Good for
So
you.
it was great. Yeah, it was great. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Let's welcome in Tracy. We see her here waiting in the waiting room. So
Hello. How are
hi,
you?
Tracy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Of course.
So
Thanks
good to
for
see you.
joining us.
Absolutely. I did the Carmel, or I should say Pacific Coast Highway trip in 2000 with my husband. We had a blast. It was such a
Isn't it?
great, all the way up to San Francisco, did Carmel, did Big Sur, all of it. It was a fabulous trip.
Yeah, I know.
And the wine
It's
wasn't
like,
horrible either.
no, the wine's not bad. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in the United
Wow.
States anyway. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just like so much natural beauty.
Yeah.
So highly recommend if our listeners haven't done that yet.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, Tracy. Well, I'm gonna do your formal bio. We'll condense it down because we always say we love maximizing our time actually talking with you, but it is helpful for our listeners and viewers to know a little bit about you.
Okay.
So before I give your formal intro, Tracy is a good friend who I've known for a long time and was also my real estate agent back in 2021, which was you were incredible. And it was a really tough market at the time. I think the house I ended up buying had 5 offers, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and she got it for us.
We did it.
So,
Yeah.
We did it. A little
We
bit
did
of
it.
boldness with a little bit of luck, with a little bit of strategy goes a long way.
Yeah, that combination was beautiful.
Whoa, put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, there you go. My new tagline.
Yeah, exactly. Super helpful in real estate. All those things are needed. So,
Absolutely.
okay, but here's your formal intro. So, Tracy is an associate broker at Century 21 Redwood and the team leader of Focus on Nova Real Estate Team. She is a top producing real estate agent and award winning as well. So has been recognized in Washingtonian Magazine, Northern Virginia Magazine, Northern Virginia Association of Realtors, and through her company of Century 21. She also has a few different areas of expertise, downsizing and what she calls right sizing, first-time home buyers, estates, and divorce, which, as you all know, we work with a lot of people in life transition. So we have lots of specific questions about that.
Yep.
And Tracy is actually from this area, which is pretty rare. So born and raised in Fairfax, Virginia, has a degree in biology from Mary Washington and a BS in nursing from George Mason. So
Correct.
we want to hear about that pivot too.
All the things. What do you want to hear about first?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Well,
Bye.
yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
My
so
pleasure.
we always start with our guest with wanting to know about your journey. So again, a major in biology is interesting. So please share with us and our listeners that journey from there to where you are now as a real estate agent.
Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, so I majored in biology, loved sciences, et cetera, and quickly discovered that there's no jobs in actual biology. So was certified in pathology with a medical technology degree and took a position with an infectious disease practice in Annandale. Loved it. Lab work quickly got decentralized in the late 1900s. And had to go to central labs at that point. So I moved over to clinical research, which is where I was put into a position of a clinical research coordinator. And what that is it's the person that collects the data, does the input, et cetera, while developing new drugs. So realizing that I was limited in how much I could contribute, I went back to school, got my nursing degree, and just found my niche. And what I found is that I loved working with highly motivated people with a ton of process behind it, which is what clinical research is. There is a protocol that's developed. You must follow it. There are windows, there are guidelines, there are tests for safety as well as efficacy that go involved with it. The patients that were involved with those clinical trials knew what the rules were. They didn't have to participate. It was completely voluntary with informed consent. And I loved it because we were making a difference in the world of HIV. Later, we started doing emerging vaccinations against emerging infectious diseases in conjunction with NIH and the University of Maryland. And it was fun and it was fascinating. And if you remember the world of HIV back in the late 90s, protease inhibitors had come on the scene and they had finally had something that was efficacious, but it was horribly tolerated. So we were getting a little bit of balance for both. And then when the vaccine world came around, it was great. Then the babies came. And while nursing is noble, the
Your
salary
babies. To
is
clarify, your babies.
babies came. But yeah, so marriage happened, babies came, and I was the only clinical research nurse on staff, and that just wasn't sustainable. So my mother-in-law, Ingrid, who's on the team, asked me to come join her. I said she was nuts. How does this relate? And after a little bit of coaching from my actual broker now, she said, we sat down and he said, so what do you love about it? I said, I love process. I love helping people. And I love aligning myself with experts that can get us to the end of a protocol. And he said, that's real estate. Regardless of whether or not you're buying or selling, there is a process. There is a rule that you must follow. You've got to go on the market, write the offer, get the thing, go to closing. The difference is that everybody's circumstance is special and unique. So some people might need a financial planner, some people might need a CPA, some people might need a home inspector, an HVAC guy. So I've built my business on team working with and networking with really good professionals that when I need to throw up the flag for help on behalf of my clients, we can bring those people in. They're able to help the clients get through the tough times, and I shepherd them through the process to get them across the finish line. And that's
Yeah.
how
I
I
love that.
transitioned.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And having worked with you, obviously personally, and then professionally with working with similar clients, I can attest that you're very data driven. You're the most data driven real estate person with whom I have interacted, and I think that that's really helpful because you bring statistics and data to the
Yeah.
table, to help negotiate, but also help coach your clients and give the best advice you can possibly give. So
Yes. And
it's a
that's part of it, is just in general, it feels good when it's backed, when you can look at it and say, okay, historically, this is where we've been. These are the projections from the professionals who think on where it's going. And then you put a little grit and instinct behind that. And then we get the house with 5 offers.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
For instance.
For example.
For example. Yeah. So that's the summary of it. As far as the team and how we got into the team part of it, I was, how all your best thinking is in the shower. I think it's the easiest place to meditate. So I was like doing the shower thinking, and I was like, okay, I'm in business with my mother-in-law. Everything was 50-50 at the time. And I said, what does she bring to the table? And it wasn't so much that we could do more business, because at the time we were 50-50 partners, because she could leave and I would just do half and make the same amount of money and do the same amount of volume, or with less volume. But in the end, it really came down to quality of life, which is why I loved your last question that we'll be talking about. But it came down to quality of life of, when I needed to be somewhere, the client didn't suffer. The house was shown, the open house happened, the lockbox made it to the property, the inspection was able to happen before the deadline. So the team itself is now up to 7 of us, and then a transaction coordinator remotely. And that's what we bring to the table, is a whole bunch of experience. It's not a lead gen scenario. You don't get passed off to somebody, but you do absolutely get covered when your primary agent is not available. So I can go on vacation and know that somebody is covered and know that nobody's going to fall through the cracks and have anything go bad. So it's good. It's been really, really good. It's been a good ride.
Yeah, wonderful story. We at Curo can attest to that idea of team. We are very committed to promoting our team, that it's more than just me and Ann, and that Ann can go to Big Sur and know that all of her clients are covered when she's away. So we definitely relate and connect to that idea and the importance of teamwork, especially when you're servicing clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think my family has been with you since 2016, and that has absolutely been our experience.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you for that as well.
Hands
Okay, so speaking of data a little bit and the current political environment, there's no lack of things we could talk about, but let's
Right.
specifically talk about what you are seeing in the DMV market this year in particular.
So I'm going to start with what people think we're seeing. Please turn off the news. It's all regional, and I've got friends from out of the area that are like, oh my God, it's a bloodbath. And that's not to say or minimize what people are experiencing. Of course, there's job loss. Of course, there's upheaval and uncertainty. And I think the main story for everybody is just a general anxiety over the unknown, like what's going to happen, where are things going to go, what are we going to be doing next, etc. We are not seeing signposts going in the ground and people selling. On the contrary, an argument for home ownership is stability. By having a home that you live in, that's yours, that you own, everybody needs shelter one way or the other. And regardless of whether or not you pay rent or you own your house, you have an expense, assuming that you're not paid off. So if anything, we're seeing people hunker down a little bit more and kind of ride out the uncertainty until we figure it out. You're seeing some people either take the fork in the road or drop early with retirement. And for those people, they've typically been where they are quite some time, and they've generally saved for this rainy day type scenario. I mean, job loss is something that happens. Downsizing happens. And so most people have that buffer where they're okay. And so there isn't a need for a fire sale of their home in order to save their finances. So any of that, again, there are exceptions, but on the whole, everybody's kind of staying put right now. As far as what's happening in the actual market itself, our area has been in an absolute void of inventory really since about 2019. We started hearing a little bit about it in 2018, and it has just gotten progressively worse year over year over year. No one anticipated COVID to have the effects on the housing market that it actually did. And we kept waiting for it to stop, and it didn't, and it just kept going. And I mean, I really see that as kind of the correction of what would have been. You have highly skilled people in the tech sector, you have highly skilled people in the federal sector, whether they are being paid privately or they are subcontractors being paid indirectly through the federal government. So you've got really highly skilled people. And I think the area just kind of caught up with itself, not unlike New York and LA and San Francisco and the larger cities that have already kind of been through the massive escalations, et cetera. So the huge rebounds that we were seeing, where in 2022, we were seeing to win a deal, you needed to be 10, 15% over list, and you were seeing huge increases in the average sales price. Year over year, we're still in that 3 to 3.5% appreciation of the average sales price and median sales price. As far as inventory, some of the headline news, and again, read the article, don't just read the headline. The headline news is, oh, the inventory is surging. And by surging, they mean it has gone from 1.1 months of inventory to now we're at a whopping 1.9 months of inventory. A healthy real estate market is like 4 to 6 months worth of inventory. So we're still woefully inadequate. We had a lot of people that could not compete during the giant escalations that were happening in 2000 through 2022. For the people that had to wait, it was because they didn't have cash to throw at deals, because cash deals were winning. If you had the cushion to waive an appraisal or waive a home inspection and take on something that could have been that you had the risk tolerance for that, then you could compete in those markets. If you did not have that, you're a first-time home buyer, you're scraping together your 3.5%, et cetera. You were not in a place to be waiving contingencies. You don't have the financial chops to do that. So unfortunately for those folks, they missed the window on really fabulous interest rates. And now they're at what's a market norm, actually a little bit below a market norm for interest rates. So what we're seeing from an activity in general is the sticker shock of affordability for everybody who saw everything jump in early 2022, where they were about 4.5%, and went all the way up to almost 10% by October. We've corrected back to be in the mid sixes to low sevens right now. For those people that felt that hurt, okay, they were upset, but now they're thanking their lucky stars that they locked in at 5.5, because although that was outrageous compared to 3% 2 years prior, now they're thinking they're lucky stars they got in. But now what we're seeing is people have readjusted their price points. We're not seeing massive escalations like before. So people are just securing their housing. And my mantra with them has been, this is the worst it's ever going to be for you. And it doesn't matter what the price point is. If you can afford it today, you're locking it in for the next 30 years. So run with it, go with it. And when eventually things do slow down, are less volatile, and there's a shift in the interest rates, you can refinance then, and then it just gets better and it's gravy. And those are the folks that I'm seeing are entering the market. The ones that are done with the uncertainty of rental. They're done with the uncertainty of whether or not they're going to have a house, not have their house renew. Their rents are going up, 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 because that is right in line with what was happening with the escalations in the housing market. And they just want the stability of where they live. And those are the first-time home buyers that are jumping in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those people, the ones looking to maybe buy or even sell in the
Mhm.
next 6 to 12 months, because I mean, I spoke to a client recently who recently retired and is looking to offload her primary home and go to her second home as a permanent residence.
Yep.
What types of trends or policies or things should they be aware of and consider as they're making either a buy or a sell decision in the next 6 to 12 months?
So that's a really great question. While we don't have a crystal ball, what we do know is that we continue to have the limited inventory. we're not necessarily going to see that flux. We're seeing the older generation stay put longer and work longer, so they're not really incentivized to leave. So while we are seeing what you just said, where there's a second home to go to, so what are they going to do with this home? The advice is just to watch it. Do the best you can to maximize the condition of your home now, because a well-maintained and updated home will sell for higher and with less contingencies than one that's got deferred maintenance or particularly dated. So there are investments that can be made now to do it. And of course, that should all be done with careful analysis of the neighborhood, the data, et cetera, to make sure that the return on investment is there. As far as policies and things like that, there's a whole bunch of things that are going into it. The Northern Virginia Association of Realtors is really great about putting out articles on a weekly basis that's out there. And so the big things to look out for are what's happening with the interest rates. What is impacting the higher end seller market is the ability for them to liquidate and move funds, where somebody to compete in our market as a purchaser might need to, or to go someplace, might need the equity in their home. They used to be able to leverage that by potentially taking a loan against one of their retirement accounts, et cetera. But nobody's liquidating stocks today. I mean, the stock market's all over the place. It's low. Nobody's doing that. So that purchaser, that option for a purchaser will affect what your seller that you described, who's coming through the door. So depending on what happens as we see this all develop over the next few months. And I think I was saying to somebody just recently, it may have been you, Ann, that I think we're really going to see this all play out over the course of the next 18 months. We're going to know who's going back to office, who's not going back to office, what jobs were eliminated and then reabsorbed back into the private sector, which it's just going to play out. And we're not going to know that right now. And I think people are just going to have to hang on a little bit. So to your seller that's looking to sell now, what do they need to look out for? Potentially, if you're doing an update, do it right now. Because as the tariffs start to play an effect of anything that's being imported, whether it be lumber or steel or whatever, that may drive up those price points on those items, which would increase the cost to do renovations or additions or build a home. I mean, pick one, anything in construction. It'll influence all of that, which will then limit what your ROI is on those things or your affordability if you're buying someplace else. As far as an influx of purchasers to the market, we're not seeing that. The interest rates, I mean, nobody's predicting that they're going to go crashing down and we're going to have this like rush on the market again. Nobody's doing that. That said, there are really motivated purchasers out there that make a ton of money. That said, we're seeing the discretion of those purchasers increase, meaning it's remarkable to see we've got one client right now that's looking in the 1.4 to 1.6 price point. Their taste is a 2.0 or a $2 million price point. And I don't say that disparagingly. I'm just saying that the market has appreciated very quickly over a very short period of time. And what you get for what used to be a millionaire's home is now a dated 30 to 40-year-old home. And that's really discouraging when you're slapping down $1.6 million on a property and you still have to update the kitchens and bathrooms, and it has original windows and a 20-year-old roof. I mean, those are the realities of Northern Virginia. So the sellers should do the best they can to get it in the best condition, do it soon before the tariffs really kick in. As far as job market and influx and who's coming and who's going, I don't see it being a fire sale because there is no more land unless you go west of 15 and out to Leesburg, Lovettsville, Percival, all of that. I mean, it's amazing the development that's happening out there. But is that feasible if you are going into DC, which just means anything close in? You still have that blue chip location in Arlington and Fairfax, which means that your 30, 40, 50-year-old homes are just going to continue to appreciate if they're in good shape.
Yeah. Too bad I can't move my Georgia house up here. It'd probably be worth $500,000 or $600,000.
Oh my God. It's heartbreaking when you get people from out of state move into our area. They're like, but I had all of this for 500,000. And I'm like, yeah, 500,000 is going to get
Here's
you
your shoebox.
Right. You hope you get a
used
condo.
townhouse that needs to be fully renovated. Welcome to Northern Virginia.
Right. Welcome to the DC Metro.
It's
Good
a
luck.
nasty little pill to swallow.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So
Yeah,
that's what we're seeing.
Just like with so many things, I think it's about expectations, right? And to your point, if somebody has expectations that 1.4 or 1.6 is going to buy them this, and the reality is very different. I'm sure it's the same when you're having conversations about sales prices for sellers, right? They
Yes.
think their house is worth X, and in some markets you have to reduce that by a certain percentage. And again, it's all about the expectations going into it.
And that's where you said it with the data, et cetera. I mean, the other thing to mention too, as far as what to tell your seller and what to expect is, I mean, really, if you look back at the last 2 years at the greatest percentage of my business, it's been the Ds. Everybody refers to the Ds. Death, someone's died and they're getting rid of the estate. They're selling the estate. Divorce, where it's mandated that they have to sell the house. Diamonds, this is going down a little bit because even with marriage, I am seeing people who are satisfied with what they already have. Although what I am also seeing, because the rental market is going so well and people are getting married later, is that they actually have so much equity in their residence that they're hanging on to that as rental properties, which again stifles the sale market. But it's building crazy income for these newlyweds where, they got married in their late 20s, early 30s. They're making excellent money. They can afford the 900 to $1.2 million property, no problem. And they get to keep the investment property. So the diamond market is a little less gotta do it. Diapers, both as for the very young and then the very old. For them, it's for the young, you're seeing people suck it up because they're not willing to triple their mortgage to get into the bigger dated home when their perfectly good townhome, while small, is updated and they know what they've got. But on the other side, you do have the forced downsizing, my own father included, where he couldn't stay put. And that required some maneuvering of assets in order to get him to the care that he needed. So you're seeing the forced moves, or for those who did the luxury eject buttons. Most of those people did that in 2020 with COVID when everybody went remote work and moved into their second homes. You're seeing that second wave happen now. Why? Because 5 years have gone by. That many more people have qualified for earlier retirement and they're out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see how it's all happening.
Yeah. Are you seeing, it's the beginning of the spring market, right? Are you seeing like typical numbers this year so far in the spring market? It's, May basically. What are you seeing?
Typical is a loaded and ambiguous word, but but what we're seeing again, I mean, if you look at March over March, it was literally a 3.5% appreciation year over year as far as sales prices. Instead of having 27 and 30 offers on a property like we did 4 years ago, 3 years ago, we are now seeing a multiple offer situation where you might have 2 to 5 offers on a property. You're seeing decreased traffic in open houses. But the people that are coming for the showings in the open houses are not playing around. They are not tire kickers. They are the message is received on the consumer end where they understand that they have to be pre-approved by a reputable lender, assets looked at, run through underwriting, credit run, ready to go. And they're coming to bat. So we're still seeing waived home inspections, waived appraisals, waived contingencies. We're still seeing escalations. A huge player that we haven't touched on as far as policy is the National Association of Realtors lawsuit with the Department of Justice and the Commission lawsuit and settlement. How's that for more accurately? Rule. There was a couple things that came out of it. In Virginia, it really didn't affect us as far as agency. You have to have signed agency when you show a property now. You actually don't need it to show the property. I can open the door and let you in. I just can't talk to you about anything. So the whole point in having an agent, in my opinion, should not be your gatekeeper. It should be my ability to go into a property and say, have you considered this? Let's check out the age of this. And, we're looking at it with discerning eyes so that you can make an educated decision on whether or not you want to buy the house. We now have to have sign agency. It's been that way since 2012 for us. Nationally, that was not the case. So that was a big national settlement that had to happen. The other side that was a major change was that the MLS used to require that you had to put some form of compensation in the MLS that was visible to everybody. So when we were going into listing appointments, it was very easy for us to say, all right, so, my commission is so many apples, because I'm not allowed to talk numbers. And if we look over here at these apples, this is what your competition is offering, which when you really come down to it, the reality is you are pigeonholing that. What I've loved since the change has taken effect back in August of last year is that all commissions have always been negotiable. The difference is when you're visibly showing what everybody else is doing and an agent has a choice or a buyer has a choice to say, do I want to see the one that's going to cover my agent's commission or the one that doesn't cover? probably going to do the one that covers, which by definition is now steering people into it. So that has gone away, which is fabulous. And now it's just another term. So before, when it was, I'm going to waive my home inspection, or I'm going to put in a escalation, or I'm going to waive 20,000, 50, 100,000 of my appraisal or my appraisal altogether, my buyer is still responsible for paying my buyer agent commission. They always have been. That's never changed. That's always been that way. The difference is it was front and center up until August, and now it's totally negotiable. So when it's now a negotiation strategy where the buyer can choose to ask the seller to pay that out of the proceeds. They can ask them to pay a portion of that. The purchaser can pay for it themselves, therefore increasing the net to the seller to make it better and increasing the chances for appraisal. So there's all kinds of places where we can play with that now. And I think that that's the thing where agents have the biggest challenge with sellers, is helping them understand, stop looking at the sales price. Let's look at the terms in the net. And then that's going to be a big difference and to what actually transpires. And then the other piece of that is making sure purchasers understand that it is negotiable, it is a term. And they always get the pushback, well, what if I can't pay it? And I was like, we ask for it, and if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, it's not your house. I mean, it's the same thing as before. Well, what if they waive the appraisal and I can't waive the appraisal? Then you don't get it. This isn't your market. So it's a little bit of tough love.
But I think it's why the guidance of professionals, right, of agents who understand the market and understand those terms, really show their value in the challenging markets, right? In the tough times when you can work with consumers to help them find the house that they want that works for them. We love to give that guidance here. You need to work with a professional. Seek the guidance of a professional.
Yeah, and take it.
For sure.
When they give it. Listen
Absolutely.
to it. When
Take
they give
the
it.
advice.
When they listen to it, take it. So yeah, so that's I think those are the big things. We've had major policies that didn't come straight to mind because I feel like I've been doing it now forever, but it's really only been since last August.
Yeah,
Since that
that was a
came
big
into
deal.
effect.
I saw that all
Yeah.
over the news when it came out.
And they made it a bigger deal than it was, and
Mhm.
it's kind of nice. It's kind of gives all the power back to the purchaser again, and it's your move. You don't have to show all your cards, but let's start here. And if there's a counter, the power's back in your court. What do you want to do? And we take it.
All right. Well, we always ask our guests one last question. So the name of this podcast is Living Richly, and we love to hear from you. What does living richly mean?
Okay, so I did some research on this.
Ooh,
I know.
Of course you did.
Shocking. The world was
Of course,
shocked.
our data person did some research.
The world was shocked. Okay, so using AI, not to come up with my AI response, but I put in, so what does this mean, et cetera, and which ones do I identify as both? So I had a pretty landmark birthday back in November, turned 50. Yes, praise, here it is. So, and with that comes a lot of perspective as my kids are flying the nest. The youngest is heading off to college, the other one's in college. So there's been a couple of things. So really living richly to me has really come down to what matters. 50 years down the road, the friendships have come and gone. Some have stuck, some have not. So really having meaningful in the present relationships with the people who are in my life is really, really important with that. I have also did a little soul searching coming out of last year and decided that how I'm choosing to spend my time is really important. I still need to make a living. I got to pay for 2 colleges. There's stuff that needs to happen here, but that said, I'm not going to be dropping everything. I don't need to have all of the numbers and be the number one and standing on top of the podium with my trophy. Enough is enough. There is such a thing as enough and then a diminishing return. So the goal is to have enough and be happy with enough. And so freeing up my time and making it work. I love what I do. It is helping people achieve their dreams, and that is fabulous. So that part was easy as far as charity and where I'm going to go. As far as wellness, that was something that was neglected for quite some time. As Anne knows, I had to take care of my mother, and my sister and I had to take care of my mother, who passed away from cancer after a 2-year battle from 2018 to 2020. And in the meantime, took guardianship of my father, who had Parkinson's and dementia. So 7 years later, well, I guess it was really 5 years later, after they both had passed, it was time to start taking care of me. So I think the personal wellness and mindfulness, body, eating, all of that. Although I don't look the picture of health, I am on my way. But yeah, reprioritizing wellness is really, really important to me. And then just in general, living with gratitude and in the presence. It is amazing. I started doing meditation again with my little thing. Been doing it for about 1.5 years with a yoga studio out of Clifton and Go Wheelhouse. Shout out to Allison. It's been really impactful just taking the time to do the breath work and do dedications of gratitude. And I know that sounds super woo woo, but when
We're woo-woo
Not
here.
here.
I know, but it is like,
Woo-woo.
I mean,
We're very woo-woo at Curo.
I am all in on it. It has made an absolute difference, whether it's I'm walking into an appointment, I'm starting my day. Today's stork pose wasn't the most beautiful stork. He was a little bit of a broken stork, but couldn't balance very well, but that's okay. We're giving grace and gratitude that I could be there and do it this morning, bright and early. But no, I really do think that in general, living with it from a place of gratitude for everything we have, even the lessons we get to learn from the hardships, is where it's going to be at. So I can't serve others well if I'm not right with myself. And that's kind of where we are.
Very beautiful.
Ah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Shall we do a box breath,
Everybody,
ladies?
I know. Everybody take a deep breath. Just let that
In
sit
for
with you
4,
for a
hold.
moment.
Yes.
So
Oh,
that's it.
Love that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. And thank you guys for doing the podcast. It's really great. I watch it every week.
Oh, thank you.
I'm the one. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's more than one.
No,
I
it's
know.
more than
Whenever we
one.
do our social, we always jest that we're the ones liking each other.
Yeah.
No, it's a
Yeah.
great service. So thank you for putting the information out.
Oh, thank
yeah,
you so much.
Of course. All right, Tracy. Well, how can people find you? What's the best way if somebody wants to reach out?
They
website,
can hit me
social?
up through the website, focusonnova.com. Also, I'm on Instagram as Focus on Nova Realtor, and then at Facebook at Tracy Barrett Realtor. So I'm there.
All right, awesome.
Find
And I
me.
love your social content. You all do some like creative, really fun things. You bring
Thank
some
you.
humor and entertainment to real
Yeah,
estate, which is appreciated.
I appreciate you saying that. No, we try to have some fun. If you work too hard, you got to have some fun in the middle of all
Yeah.
of that. And that's kind of
Yeah.
our goal. We take it very seriously without taking ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we appreciate the information, the insights, your time. So thank you so much for joining us. And if anybody who's listening or watching has questions about all things real estate, please feel free to reach out to Tracy. She's a wealth of information, as you can tell.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing from anybody that needs help.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, y'all, that's a wrap for us for another week. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next week,
Live richly.
thanks again for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Friendly reminder that this is for informational purposes only. For additional information, please visit us at www.curoprivatewealth.com. Until next time, live richly.